If you like chaos, you'll like our next game. Alabama, 3-point favorites on the road at Tennessee. Alabama is the 7th ranked team in the country. Tennessee is the 11th ranked team. Neither squad feel like they've really earned those little funny numbers next to their name. Guys, I've gone back and forth on which side of this line that I want. I believe it's come down since I gave Alabama the 3 points when I made this run sheet. So the betting public coming in on Tennessee. Trey, I'll kick it to you first. And I talked to one of the doctors in our office who's an Alabama grad. Said, man, is this a true coin flip game? As true of a coin flip as you've seen since you've been an Alabama fan? And without hesitating, he said, yes, it is.
Yeah, and I totally get that sentiment. I think it will be a hard-fought game. But listen, a lot of negative attention has come to Alabama over the last couple of weeks. When you lose to Vanderbilt and almost lose to South Carolina and really blow the game against South Carolina, that's rightful negative attention. But I think Tennessee might deserve a little bit more negative attention. So I'm going to take Alabama -3 here. And it's largely built on lack of trust in the Tennessee offense, guys. I think it might be time to sound the alarm after 3 straight really lackluster performances. Look at the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Florida games. Nico's looking a lot more like Joe Milton than Hendon Hooker. And that should sound, listen, he's a freshman, tons of time to grow into what his ceiling can be. We've seen the ceiling already against lesser competition. But the recipe for Tennessee over the last few weeks has certainly been to turn it into a defensive slugfest and rely on the defense. That hasn't been how you beat Alabama this year. You beat Alabama in a shootout by putting up points and forcing them to make a lot of mistakes. So that's what Vanderbilt did. They stayed on the field offensively. South Carolina in the second half was able to stay on the field offensively in spurts. That's what helped them close that gap. And they had a crazy onside kick and some craziness. Alabama should have run the clock out instead of falling and going into the end zone. But I think that the Tennessee offense is the most concerning unit in this game for me. And that's why I'm going to take Alabama -3.
I think I'm flipping my pick because in the run sheet, Trey, did you like how I kicked it to you unscripted? Because in the run sheet, I have Tennessee +3. I think I'm going to flip my pick to Alabama, though.
I convinced him. Let's go.
Minus the points. I sat on this all afternoon, and yes, I think that Alabama's defense is a concern. I think that Alabama's offense, to some extent, is also concerned, specifically their offensive line and just the inability for them to run the football. But then you flip it over to Tennessee, and I don't trust that offense right now, and I really don't trust that defense in a big spot. Now, they played well at times, but you talk to people around the industry, and everyone seems to agree that Tennessee's defense, especially now with their middle linebacker done for the year due to a torn ACL, it's a ticking time bomb. That secondary is razor thin. And so I do think that Tennessee can absolutely win this game. And if they get a turnover or two early, that momentum, the Neyland Stadium energy, that could absolutely carry the Vols to a victory outright. But even as I'm saying that, I get cold feet about taking the Vols. After what I saw last week at Florida, where they were shut out in the first half, it was 3-0 well into the third quarter, gentlemen. I'm going to take Alabama minus the points.
I don't really think that the Tennessee defensive criticism is all that fair. I know people are talking about it. The biggest number they've given up so far is 19? 19 is the biggest number they've given up against Arkansas. And I get Arkansas not necessarily world beaters on that offensive side, so you may not be super comfortable with that, but looking at the logs, they haven't really given up that many points this year against, SEC teams. You can only play who they put out in front of you. When you look at the consistency of each unit, the only unit that I really trust right now is Tennessee's defense. Bama's defense has looked susceptible against, different teams. I think Bama's defense got a little bit exposed the last couple of weeks, and I think we found the answer to Alabama's defense. It's a quarterback with wheels who can complete a pass, 10 yards downfield. You don't have to be a guy who can hit the ball over the top. You don't have to be able to pick apart a defense through multiple reads. If you can be a Diego Pavia or a Lenoris Sellers, you can beat Bama's defense, right? You can get after them. And so I just don't really trust what Bama's defense is right now. I want to trust Bama's offense. I love what they got. I love Milroe, love Ryan Williams. It's a great couple of players on there. but they didn't look all that good against South Carolina. They made some bad mistakes. There were a couple times last week I was like, oh, Jalen, what are you doing? Just head-scratching mistakes from Jalen Milroe, and you can't do that, right? You can't do that. I'm going to take a little bit of Mitch's matrix from the Texas game and say, who's got the better quarterback? It's Bama, but who's got the better defense? To me, it's Tennessee, and who's playing at home? It's Tennessee. I'm going to take a little bit of Mitch's matrix here and say, I think this is what ends up pulling him out over the top. I think Nico runs a little bit in this one. I think if they have any idea of what they're doing in that Tennessee offensive meeting room, they should be scheming up QB runs and rollouts and stuff like that to give Nico a chance to get outside the pocket, maybe stretch that Bama defense a little bit. I think Sampson's going to be a huge factor in this, and I think he's going to run that thing up and down the field. Bama's been getting pushed off the line of scrimmage a little bit on that defensive side. They didn't look all that good against South Carolina. Combine that with the home field advantage. Both teams in desperation mode, right? Both teams know that this is their season, right? If they lose this game, they're probably out of the playoff picture, at the very least, life support for the playoff picture. I trust what Tennessee has a little bit more right now. I'm going to trust Nico as a freshman to, have some games that are bad and then find places and ways to bounce back. I think he's better than this, and I think he takes that step forward this week.
Garrett, my only pushback to that is I think we can ask the same question we were asking about the Texas defense about the Tennessee defense. I didn't pull the numbers like I did with Texas, but you look at the quarterbacks they've faced, you look at the offenses that they've gone against, not exactly a murderer's row. And that's my only concern about the Tennessee defense going into this one.
Yeah, Tennessee's defense is second overall in total defense. Their advanced numbers look really good. And again, that's what you want a good team to do. Take care of the trash, right? Don't stoop to their level. What really concerns me about Tennessee is Billy Napier was on the record before the Florida-Tennessee game saying, yeah, the way you beat Tennessee is you stack the box, you stop the run, and you make a freshman quarterback beat your corners in man-on-man coverage, right? And again, I just found Nico staring down wide receivers, throwing into traffic. He gets rattled a little bit.
A lot of overthrows.
And a lot of overthrows. Yes, he's got a cannon of an arm, but he's got to figure out how to use it, right? And so that is my very tangible concern for Tennessee. Now, I talked about this off the top. This will be the second loss in conference for one of these two teams. Now, I know we're going to have 10-2 teams that make it into the 12-team playoff, but guys, on a scale of 1 to 5 here, 5 being a hot take and 1 being absolutely ice cold, rate this is a college football playoff elimination game.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. So whatever number is not a hot take, 1 in that situation.
Yeah, 1, super cold. Because this is, for all intents and purposes, it is because of the SEC pecking order. It's not 10-2. 10-2 in the Big 12, 10-2 in the ACC. You might get a little bit more of a look. 10-2 in the SEC, and you're 5th or 6th in the conference, maybe. There's going to be some teams that finish with really good records this year in the SEC. If it's 10-2, but you're looking up at LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, Georgia, Texas, if you're looking up at those teams, you're going to have some issues, and you're not going to be in a spot where, depending on tiebreakers, whatever else, you're not going to be in a spot where the 6th or 7th best SEC team is going to end up making the playoff. It's just not going to happen.
I think both of these teams' schedules warrant this being a must-win game too, because Tennessee still has to go to Georgia, Alabama still has to go to LSU. Both have in-state rivalry games that, while they should win on paper, going to be tricky at the end of the year. Tennessee goes to Vandy, Alabama hosts Auburn. So lots of opportunities to stub your toe and get a third loss if you drop your second one here.
I also want to say this is the one final thing that I really think about this game. This is a rivalry game. This is a big rivalry. Third Saturday in October. This is a massive rivalry game. A lot of hatred on both sides for these teams. You talk to a lot of these teams. This is the game they circle, or one of the 2 games they circle at the beginning of the season. Both of these teams want to beat the brakes off the other guys. So you can take all rivalry game implications and put them on this game. This is one of those crazy. You're going to see something weird. I don't think you're going to see 5 receiving touchdowns from a Jalen Hyatt type of thing, but you're going to see some kind of weird thing in this game.
A lot is on the line here. Very, very excited to see how this one breaks out. Yeah, LSU entering into the discussion as well. That's just a wild card that I feel like has gotten thrown back in the SEC. We'll be able to talk LSU a little bit later on is they're taking on Arkansas this week as well.
Gracious him. How about